"I should see the garden far better," said Alice, "if I could get to the top of that hill. And here's a path that leads straight to it. At least, no, it doesn't do that. How curiously it twists. It's more like a corkscrew than a path. Well, this turn goes to the hill. Oh, no, it doesn't. This goes straight back to the house. Oh, it's too bad," she cried. "I never saw such a house for getting in the way. Well, then, I'll try it the other way." This time she came upon a large flower bed with a border of daisies and a willow tree growing in the middle. Addressing herself to one flower that was waving about in the wind, "Oh, tiger lily," said Alice, "I wish you could talk." "We can talk," said the tiger lily, "when there's anybody worth talking to." Alice was so astonished she couldn't speak for a minute. "And can all the flowers talk?" "As well as you can, and a great deal louder." "It isn't manners for us to begin, you know," said the rose, "and I really was wondering when you'd speak. I said to myself, her face has got some sense in it, though it's not a clever one." Alice didn't like being criticised, so she began asking questions. "Are there any more people in the garden besides me?" "There's one other flower that can move about like you," said the rose, "but she's redder than you are, and her petals are shorter, I think." "Her petals are done up close, almost like a dahlia," the tiger lily interrupted, "not tumbled about anyhow like yours." "But that's not your fault," added the rose. "You're beginning to fade, and then one can't help one's petals getting a little untidy." "She's coming," cried the larkspur. Alice looked around eagerly and found that it was the Red Queen. She set off at once to meet her, but to her surprise lost sight of her in a moment and found herself walking in at the front door of the house again. A little provoked, she thought she would try the plan this time of walking in the opposite direction. It succeeded beautifully. She found herself face to face with the Red Queen. "Where are you going?" said the Red Queen. "Look up, speak nicely, and curtsy while you're thinking of what to say. It saves time." Alice explained as well as she could that she had lost her way. "I don't know what you mean by your way. All the ways about here belong to me. Open your mouth a little wider when you speak, and always say your Majesty." "I only wanted to see what the garden was like, your Majesty." "That's right. Though when you say garden, I've seen gardens compared with which this would be a wilderness." Alice was afraid from the Queen's tone that she was a little offended, and they walked on in silence until they got to the top of the little hill. Alice looked out over the country, and a most curious country it was. There were a number of little brooks running across from side to side, and the ground between was divided up into squares. "I declare, it's marked out just like a large chessboard," said Alice. "It's a great game of chess that's being played all over the world. Oh, how I wish I could join in. I wouldn't mind being a pawn if only I might join, though of course I should like to be a queen best." She glanced rather shyly at the real queen, who smiled and said, "That's easily managed. You can be the White Queen's pawn, and when you get into the 8th square, you'll be a queen," and just at this moment, somehow or other, they began to run. Alice never could quite make out, in thinking about it afterwards, how it was that they began. All she could remember is that the Queen kept crying, "Faster, faster!" And the most curious part was that however fast they went, they never seemed to pass anything. "Wonder if the trees move along with us," thought poor puzzled Alice. "Faster!" cried the Queen. "Don't try to talk!" Till suddenly they stopped, and Alice found herself propped against a tree, and the Queen saying kindly, "You may rest a little now. Now, a pawn goes 2 squares in its first move, so you'll go very quickly through the 3rd square, by railway, I should think, and you'll find yourself in the 4th square in no time. That belongs to Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The 5th is mostly water, the 6th belongs to Humpty Dumpty, the 7th square is all forest, However, one of the knights will show you the way, and in the 8th square we shall be queens together, and it's all feasting and fun." Alice got up and curtsied and sat down again. "Speak in French when you can't think of the English thing. Turn out your toes as you walk, and remember who you are. Goodbye." She did not wait for Alice to curtsy this time, but walked quickly away. How it happened, Alice never knew, but exactly as the Queen came to the last peg, she was gone, vanished into thin air. For some time, Alice stood silent, and then she ran down the hill and jumped over the first of 6 little brooks. "Tickets, please," said the guard, putting his head in at the window and looking angrily at Alice. "There wasn't a ticket office where I came from." "Don't make excuses," said the guard. "You should have bought one from the engine driver." "There's no use in speaking," Alice thought to herself. All this time the guard was looking at her through opera glasses. "You're travelling the wrong way," he said. "So young a child," said the gentleman sitting opposite to her. He was dressed in white paper. "Ought to know which way she's going, even if she doesn't know her own name." A goat that was sitting next to the gentleman shut his eyes and said in a loud voice, "She ought to know her way to the ticket office, even if she doesn't know her alphabet." Alice couldn't see who was sitting beyond the goat, but a hoarse voice spoke next. "Change engines," it said, and there it choked and was obliged to leave off. "It sounds like a horse," thought Alice, and an extremely small voice close to her ear said, "You might make a joke on that. Something about horse and horse, you know." The gentleman in white paper leant forwards and whispered, "Never mind what they all say, my dear, but take a return ticket every time the train stops." "Indeed I shan't," said Alice rather impatiently. "I don't belong to this railway journey at all. I was in a wood just now, and I wish I could get back there." "You might make a joke on that," said the little voice close to her ear. "Something about you would if you could, you know." Huh? "If you're so anxious to have a joke made, why don't you make one yourself?" The little voice started to sigh deeply, but then it was drowned by a shrill scream from the engine, and everybody jumped up in alarm. "It's only a brook we have to jump over," said the horse, and in another moment Alice felt the carriage rise straight up in the air. In her fright, she caught at the thing nearest her hand, which happened to be the goat's beard. But the beard seemed to melt away as she touched it, and she found herself sitting quietly under a tree, while the gnat, for that was the owner of the little voice, was balancing itself on a twig just over her head and fanning her with its wings. Goodbye.